Different types of research tools. Following four types of tools of research are mostly used in behavioral research: questionnaire, interview, observation, tests, and appraisal instruments. Each of the above tools employs distinctive ways of describing and quantifying the data. Each tool is particularly appropriate for certain sources of data, yielding information of the kind and in the form that would be most effectively used. Questionnaire. A questionnaire is a set of carefully selected and ordered questions prepared by an investigator to seek factual information from respondents or to find their opinion, attitude, or interest. Some authors restrict the use of the word questionnaire to a set of questions seeking factual information, whereas those seeking opinion are called opinionaire, and those dealing with attitude of the respondent are called attitude scale. However, it is generally agreed that isolating specific questions for the consideration of the respondents tends to objectify, intensify, and standardize their observations. Forms of questionnaire. We can construct questions in the form of a closed form, open form, pictorial form, and scale item. We can utilize one type of questionnaire exclusively or a combination of them when structuring our questionnaire. The nature of the problem and the character of the respondents determine which form or forms will most likely supply the desired data. Closed form. Closed form of questionnaire usually consists of a prepared list of concrete questions and a choice of possible answers. To indicate his answer, the respondent simply marks yes or no or checks one or more items from the list of answers. Often, an alternative do not know is provided in item seeking opinion on highly controversial matters. Open form. Rather than forcing respondents to choose between rigidly limited responses, the open form or unrestricted type of questionnaire calls for a free response in respondents' own words. For example, why did you choose to do your MA in EPM in this university? Pictorial form. Some questionnaires present respondent with drawings and photographs rather than a written statement from which he has to choose answers. They may also provide oral rather than written directions. This form of questionnaire is particularly a suitable tool for collecting data from children and adults with limited reading ability. Scale items. A scale item is a question to which the respondent expresses his agreement or disagreement of various levels. Scale items have fixed alternatives, and the respondent indicates where he stands on the scale. Thus, the item relating to the English medium institutions may be presented as follows: All English medium institutions should be closed forthwith. Strongly agree, agree, undecided, disagree, strongly disagree. Opinionaire and attitude scale. A set of questions attempting to measure the attitude or belief of an individual is called an opinionaire or an attitude scale. The underlying assumption in this method is that opinions expressed in response to the questions truly reflect the attitude of the respondent, but this may not always be true, as either the individual himself may not really know how he feels about a social issue, as he may never have given the issue any serious thought. At times, the respondent may deliberately try to conceal his real attitudes and try to project himself in good color. To develop an opinionaire, a number of statements expressing idea or institution are collected. These statements are then either submitted to a panel of judges, experts, or administered to a number of subjects. On the basis of an analysis of data thus collected, values are computed to each item or to each of the 5 responses of an item. This permits quantification of the responses of subjects and computation of an attitude score of the subject. Whereas in a questionnaire, the responses of a group of subjects on each item question have to be tabulated and reported separately. The opinionaire permits to work out scores for each respondent. The attitude scores of subjects can be used in a number of ways and are particularly useful in experimental research studies. Interviews. Many people are more willing to communicate information verbally than in writing, and therefore will provide data more readily and fully in an interview than on a questionnaire. Indeed, you can have several advantages from the friendly interaction in an interview that cannot be obtained in limited, impersonal questionnaire contexts. The interview is probably the man's oldest and most often used device for obtaining information. It is a face to face interpersonal situation in which you, as an interviewer, ask a question being interviewed. The respondent or interviewee questions designed to obtain answers pertinent to the purpose of the search problems. In a face to face meeting, you, as an interviewer, can constantly encourage the interviewee and help them probe deeply into a problem. Through interviewees' incidental comments, facial and bodily expressions, and tone of voice, you can acquire information that would not be conveyed in written replies. The auditory and visual clues also help you to keep the tempo of the tone of the private conversation so as to elicit personal and confidential information and to gain knowledge about motivations, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. Observation. As a data gathering device, direct observation may make an important contribution to descriptive research. Certain types of information can best be obtained through direct examination by you. For example, characteristics of a school building, materials of construction, number of rooms for various purposes, size of rooms, amount of furniture and equipment, presence or absence of certain facilities, and other relevant aspects. Their adequacy can be determined by comparing these facilities with reasonable standards previously determined by expert judgment and research. But when the study of human subject in action is involved, data gathering through observation becomes much more complex. Here you must know what to look for and how to look for. You must be able to distinguish between the significant subjects of the situation and factors that have little or even no importance to the investigation. This requires the selection of the situations where observational techniques are useful. Methods of record observations. Tests and appraisal instruments. A large variety of research-based appraisal instruments such as tests, inventories, scales, etc. have been developed in recent years and are being used extensively in research, particularly in experimental and descriptive researches in behavioral fields. These instruments have been designed to describe and measure a sample of certain aspects of human behavior. These measuring devices claim to assess a variety of human abilities, potentials, achievements, and behavior tendencies. These, these appraisal instruments have different degrees of validity, reliability, and applicability. Uses of questionnaire. Following are some of the uses of questionnaires. Questionnaires may be relatively inexpensive to administer since they are completed by respondents without any delay. They can be distributed to respondents quickly and inexpensively through the mail, or they can be administered to an assembled group of people at one time. They often can be designed to maintain respondents' anonymity. Thus, respondents are reassured that their responses will not be used if against them in any way. Hence, they will respond with greater honesty than might otherwise be the case. They can be standardized so that all respondents are given exactly the same printed questions to answer. On the contrary, in an interview, a respondent's answers may be influenced by the way the interviewer asks questions. Limitations of questionnaire. Following are some of the limitations of the questionnaire. The responses may not be truthful or accurate. A respondent may make many errors, writing incorrect numbers, checking wrong responses. He may make purposeful such statements in the hope of conveying a favorable impression and avoiding embarrassing admissions of lie may make unintentional error because he misinterprets questions or does not understand his attitudes, feelings, or actions well enough to answer questions accurately. The mailed questionnaires give low rate of responses. It may be due to postal wastage ranging from 20% to 40% or due to non-responses. In Pakistan, this low rate may be 40% to 60%. The respondents answer questionnaires at their leisure, which implies that they will answer at different times, on different days, and in different circumstances, and that their responses may be subject to situationally induced differences. Thank you so much. Fi Amanillah.